I'm Ryan from the AI Song Contest, and here we have Timo Kissel from Shadows, one of our 2024 participants. And yeah, Timo, could you give us a little introduction of yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, Ryan. Thanks for having me on. My name is Timo. I have a project called Ceremony Shadows, which started off about 5 years ago as an ambient solo project, and I released an EP under that name, and then had two vocalists join, and we are now a dark wave band, and we still, have a bit of an experimental ambient twist, and we think quite a bit about the intersection of art, music, and AI. I have a background in AI. I used to work in the technology industry, wrote my university thesis about neural networks and how to do audio processing with that, and ended up doing AI professionally for a while. I was the CTO of an AI company at one point. So this is just an area of great personal interest and something I do pretty much every day.
Nice. And you still like it?
I do. I do. I mean, music or anything creative really, the choices are limitless, right? It's whatever you make is what comes out in the end. And that's fun to me. I'm a bit of a novelty junkie, so if I can do new things, that's exciting to me. And obviously with AI being a big deal right now, in pretty much, all areas of life, that's just an added spice to that dish. So it's definitely keeping me occupied. Yeah.
Nice. And would you say that you consider yourself more of an artist, an academic, or an engineer?
Oh, that's a tough question. I'll answer it two ways. I think I am I am an engineer by training, and I did that for a long time professionally. And I think your brain needs to be wired a certain way to fall into that line of work. And I think if you then keep exercising that muscle, you end up just thinking and dealing with the world in a certain way. Um, I want to be more of an artist, which is, sort of why I'm actively trying to rewire a bit of myself to think about the world in from a just different point of view. And I think that's just sort of part of my journey. And I've come to peace with the fact that both sides bring certain skills to the pot. So, I try to not fight it too much, but I do try to find balance. And I surround myself with a lot of people who are, sort of deeply immersed in the artistic side of things. And that just helps me gain a different perspective. And I try to be open-minded about not getting too stuck in my ways.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that is interesting. It does sometimes feel like artists are also wired differently.
They,
But
they they are for sure, and it is a symbiotic thing. So the two vocalists I work with, they are not engineers, neither by training nor by predisposition. So they do appreciate when I can, I don't know, help them fix their vocal processing in a certain way, or figure out how to do the cabling when we play live, and so they take something away from that as well. So like with anything in life, it's a bit of a balance, I guess.
yep, absolutely. Cool. So what brought you, or how did you end up participating in the AI song contest?
I remember seeing it in my Twitter feed a couple of years ago. I forgot. I think it was Music Tech Magazine or some entity that I follow had a very brief announcement saying there's an AA song contest, and that immediately got my attention. And I went to the website and read up about it, and I thought, wow, there's people who are interested in this intersection as well. That's cool, and I want to learn more about it. And as I did, I figured I might as well participate and see what happens. And I think that's how it all started.
Nice. And you've done it 2 years now? You've participated
Yes,
for two
two
years,
two years.
two
Yeah,
editions?
exactly. Hmm.
Cool. Great. And how do you think that AI has impacted your creative process or vision? in, let's say, in last year's submission?
Yeah. So I think about AI in sort of three different ways. One of them is I call it a tactical creative tool, and I say that without judgment. When all the generative image stuff came about, it's a new tool. We're now able to create images with very little effort. And what I saw emerge from that is what I call the AI visual aesthetic. I think there's a particular sort of hyperrealism and just the way these images are constructed that has emerged as a new creative style, just like we had other visual styles that have sort of a visual trademark to them. And there's obviously other creative tactical tools where you can say, okay, style transfer, make me sound like Elvis Presley. And these are all valid, novel paintbrushes, if you will. And I think that was sort of the first big wave where it entered the zeitgeist and people started to do this. And what I personally appreciated is it's so easy and accessible that I think it gave a lot of people just maybe a little opening to do something that was just too much effort before. Now we can create a pretty fancy image with very few words and effort. And I think if all these tools end up pulling a few people deeper into the art and creative world, I think that's a net win for society. I'd rather have people make fancy images than, fight each other online or do other
Mm,
less productive things. Um, and there will be obviously many more. These tools get better. There will be different new tools. And I think as artists um, view these tools, you know, I don't think we need to be afraid because it's just a new thing, and let's think about it creatively and figure out how to incorporate that into our practices. And I think that's exciting. I think sort of the next wave that I see emerging and that I'm hoping for is for AI to be a tool that reduces tedium. So when I sit and produce and mix music, I probably spend north of 80% of my time doing very tedious things. The PDF for my audio software is well over 1,000 pages. So, if I need to do a very specific thing to manipulate audio in a certain way, well, I could Google it. I could go into the PDF and try to find out the command or the sequence of steps I need to do the thing that I want to do. And that takes a lot of time, and a lot of this stuff is not obvious, and it's just tedious. And if we can use tools like ChatGPT, for example, to just tell us, oh, you want to do this thing? This is how you do it. I think it's sort of like having a really smart studio assistant sitting next to you and, handling the low-level engineering aspects of things. I think that's just beginning. If you open up any modern digital audio workstation, you have a million buttons on the screen, and it's just the barrier to entry to do things, especially for newcomers, is just immense. And if that can be reduced and the path to creativity can be made shorter, I think that's again a win for everybody. And then sort of the last wave or the thing that I expect to emerge is for AI to be an actual creative companion. And the way I think about that is when you make something by yourself, that can be satisfying and it's a pure expression of your creative instincts and visions. And what I find when I collaborate with people, other creative people, it just brings so much to the game. And what comes out in the end literally is more than a sum of its parts.
mm.
And I've only ever done that with other musicians or creative people. So if I can have an AI creative companion that is truly, bringing a new perspective to it, I think that would be really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. And as an engineer myself, you've probably also heard about, this concept of rubber ducky engineering, where you have a rubber duck
I haven't,
on.
no.
Oh, it's this idea where if you ever have an issue or you have a bug or something in your software, you just have a rubber duck on your desk and you explain the problem to the rubber ducky. And then
Yes.
that process of explaining it and saying it out loud makes you realize how to fix it, right? And I
Yes,
think
exactly.
there's like AI, I feel like AI can be that kind of partner, but like on steroids, where you
Right.
can get feedback and you can get a pair of eyes sort of on your work without any effort and without having to arrange, a session with a fellow musician or collaborator,
Right.
right?
Yep, that's a really good comparison. Just trying to explain it to somebody or something, like that process just like lights up different neurons and gives you
Definitely.
insights. Yep.
Yeah. So can you tell me of any highlights or memorable moments you've had participating in the AI song contest?
Yeah, I think two come to mind. The first one was when I entered the first edition of it. I frankly didn't expect anything. I didn't expect to hear back. I had, I didn't really know exactly what people were expecting. So, I just figured I'll submit and move on with my life. And then I ended up getting some feedback and seeing that my song was accepted, and then it ended up in the top 10, I believe, in that edition,
Hmm.
and that just blew my mind. And the funnest aspect of that experience was during there was some sort of award show for it,
Yep.
and there was a little sort of offline, I think, some kind of software, not Discord, but a similar chat room where all the participants were hanging out as the award show was happening, and
Like
there
a
was
like a
a lot.
digital green room, right? That kind of a
That's
thing.
exactly, yes. Thank you for those words, and that's exactly what that was. And I just loved that experience because the people present were just fantastic, right? I mean, they were just like, academics, researchers, musicians, really accomplished people and people with really interesting perspectives on things. And there was a lot of chatter happening that I found really invigorating and just really fun, just to know there's more of us out there that work in this kind of strange intersection of things. And I just love that. And the other memorable experience was in the next year's edition, just watching the event. I believe it was in Switzerland. And I thought it was just, I thought it was well produced. And I remember watching the winners of the contest, or no, I'm not sure who won, but it was somebody who performed. They were from South America, I believe.
Yeah, Onda
Uh,
Corta was their name,
yes,
from
yes,
Chile.
indeed. And we were watching this, me and my two bandmates, and as the contest unfolded, we were cheering for them. We thought they were just fantastic, just lovable people, and had a really creative, fun song. And we're like, I hope they're gonna win. I hope they're gonna win. And I think they ended up winning.
They did, yeah.
Yeah, so that was just a fun little memory.
Yeah, they brought such great energy to the whole thing. And I think
Yeah.
they flew the farthest to get to the contest too,
Right.
actually.
Right. Yeah.
Uh, Amazing. Great. And would you say that participating in the AI song contest has benefited your career in music or AI or both?
Yeah, I think in two ways. I think having to think about formally incorporating AI into some of my creative output in order to participate made me look at new tools, made me look at ways to do that, and hopefully do that in an interesting way. And that really helped, open up new pathways. So we're currently writing our second album as a band, and I challenged my bandmates, who are not technical at all, to um, use AI in some way for one song, and
Mm.
they kind of latched onto it, and And I said, I'm not going to help you. You need to find your tools. You need to figure out what you want to do. And they went off into a really unexpected direction. And they're getting some really interesting, fun results. So I see that as a huge win to just open up our creative minds. And sort of the other thing is some of the exposure that came from participating and placing the top 10 was, people pay attention to this. And it's not so much that I sort of see this as a ranking of quality or impact or anything. I think it's more about, I always say it's a bat signal
Hmm,
for people who are also maybe interested in this and didn't even know there's a little community of people who do this. And I started following other participants and kind of keeping an eye on what they're doing in both their musical and sort of technical careers. And I would have never known that these people even existed, let alone spend their days doing this. So there was just a huge impact on my life.
amazing. Um, Great. What current topics in AI and music would you say excite you the most?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think linking back to something I said earlier, if I can get tools that reduce the tedium in my work so I can be more creative and less of an administrator, if you will, that would just be a huge win. And I'm not yet seeing the kind of innovation I would like to see. It's going to happen. I have absolutely no doubts about that. But I'm not really seeing that gain traction yet. So that is something I'm excited about and something I try to really, you know, pay attention to. I ended up actually participating in a research project run by Simon Fraser University in
Hmm.
Vancouver, BC.
Yeah, they've got a great
John,
program there.
yeah, they're really great. Yeah. And they were working with a music technology manufacturer on some sort of AI assisted composition tools. So they did a little research study, and I participated in that. So the point being, I try to be active in that field in some way. I think the other thing I'm excited about is to see what novel, unexpected tools are coming out of the research labs and seeing artists run with those tools in really unexpected ways. I think DataBots is a great example of that. They're another participant, and I think what they're doing with their sort of stylistic mashups is really novel and innovative, and something I would have never expected AI to play a central role in. So I'm hoping for more of that.
Nice. Um, Great. So are you planning on participating again? And what are you expecting from this year's contest?
We're debating right now whether we should do that. As I mentioned, sort of that was my secret motivation behind challenging my bandmates to use AI.
Ah,
Um, and because I was sort of the creative force behind the usage of AI in the last two contests, and I wanted to see what do artists who do not have a technical background, how do they use the tools, and what are they going to do with this technology? And that's kind of where we're at. Uh, it's early in the process, but I would love for that to pan out and submit again this year. So that's sort of the hope for myself and my bandmates. And just as an observer, I'm just really curious to see what comes out of this year's contest. Like the winners from last year, you know, I didn't expect sort of that sort of song and that sort of vibe to come out of it. Because when you think about AI songs, at least for me, I expect that to be maybe a little mechanical, maybe a little cold,
Yep.
maybe a little, not all that emotionally engaging. And they just blew my mind because what they did was very engaging and very, we all connected with that emotionally. And I think that's a real challenge to do that when you're using technology a lot in your creative process. And they nailed it. And I'm hoping for more of that.
Amazing. So if you could give as a final question, if you could give advice to future participants in the contest, what advice would you give?
I think the first thing is just participate. It's just sometimes there's maybe a little fear of thinking maybe your stuff isn't good enough, or maybe there is a bit of effort in terms of just submitting and writing about your process. And I would just encourage people to just do it. You really have very little to lose, and we're all better off if your creative output gets some exposure. And then the second bit of advice is it's easy to get caught up in the technicalities of it. It's a new technology. It's exciting. There's a lot you can do as a technologist to push the envelope and to create new things. But don't forget that in the end, when you make art, it's all about does it connect with people on an emotional level?
Hmm.
And to keep that in mind. So maybe, I think you need to look at your output as, sort of as a creator in terms of did I do something novel here? Did I use AI in an interesting way? And that's all valid and important. But the litmus test is always, can you play this to somebody who does not care about how the sausage was made? And is that person gonna, want to dance to it or want to cry to it or want to laugh about it? Like, does it elicit some sort of emotional reaction, which to me is, absolutely necessary ingredient of art. And you don't forget, like in the end, that's what you're making.
That's an amazing place to leave it, I think. Um, Thank you so much, Timo from Ceremony Shadows, for taking the time to chat. And just for people watching on social media, if you'd like to be notified when the artist submission period opens, leave a thumbs up in the comments below, and we'll let you know. And Timo, thank you again for taking the time to chat with us
Of
today.
course, nice to chat with you, Ryan. Have a
Yeah,
nice day.
we'll see you soon.